What's up, Trans World? I'm Kevin Aschenbach with American Honda. We're out here at Racetown 395 for the 2012 CRF450R intro. We got some big changes to the bike this year. A lot of them centering around suspension, stability, tracking, stuff like that. In the front fork's got a stiffer fork spring, goes from a 4.6 to a 4.8, so it's a little bit stiffer. It's going to keep the front up in the travel. Another thing in the front end that we've done is a little bit stiffer outer tubes, as well as some other components in the fork. What that does is it stiffens up the front. It's going to track better. It's going to stay hold a line better. It's not going to climb out of ruts. And another big benefit that it does is it keeps the front more stable and kind of prevents binding in the fork. And what the binding does is create stiction, so you don't get that clean travel. So with the more rigid feel, what it does is it travels, and the stroke is a little bit more linear. So you don't have that mid-stroke harshness or step that you had in some of our previous models. Another thing that we've got on the front of the bike, we've got the front axle collars are a little bit bigger. That combined with the fork tubes kind of stiffens up the front, increases the stability, tracking, rigidity of the front end. Moving on to the rear of the bike, we've got new linkage again this year. And that linkage, what it does is it kind of limits the down travel. So when you pick the bike up, the wheel's going to travel about 5 millimeters less down travel. Along with different linkage rates, what it's going to do is the suspension's going to not travel down as much. So when you're coming in like heavy braking bumps, really like steep downhills, heavy, rough stuff like that, the bike's going to stay flatter. The rear's not going to pick up. I know we had some complaints in the past about the front being low, rear high. I think everybody's going to be happy when they ride this thing and see how much more stable and flatter that it rides. A couple other things, foot pegs. Foot pegs are about 7 millimeters wider front to back and about 5 millimeters wider side to side. A lot more stable platform, more grip, more traction. And they've also got a different design that lets the mud and everything kind of flow through the peg instead of getting caught up, so they won't pack up and won't get packed with mud. And finally, last change that we've got on the bike are MX51 Dunlops front and rear. It's kind of a good overall tire, works good at a variety of tracks. You know, Southern California, even as far as back east and everything, you get into some of that stuff, it kind of works good. It's an all-around tire, works really well, and I think you guys will be happy. So, you know what? Sit back, relax, watch the video, enjoy.
Hey, Brendan Lutz here again. We're coming to you today from beautiful Racetown 395, and we're testing out the 2012 Honda CRF450R. Honda made some changes to this bike, but they didn't do anything to the motor. They left it pretty much untouched from last year's bike. The power on this bike, it's pretty mellow. It doesn't hit as hard as some of the other 450s, but it has good power, and it almost makes it a little bit more usable than, like, say, the KX450, the power is really, really strong on that bike, and at times it can be a little hard to ride depending on the track. But this bike, the power is really smooth, and that also helps in making it feel a little lighter, and it's actually the lightest bike in the class right now. So combine that with the easy to ride, smooth motor, it makes it a lot of fun to ride. While the power on this bike is really smooth and linear almost, it's still fast. The linear power, I feel like it makes it a little easier to ride, and like I said, it's a lot of fun. Since this new bike design in 2009, Honda's slowly kind of been evolving it and changing some aspects of the handling, because for a lot of people that was their main complaint about it. For 2012, the biggest changes were to the suspension. The front forks are stiffer, and they also changed the entire linkage setup. All in all, right when I got on the bike, I could tell an immediate change for the better from last year's machine. With the linkage combined with the stiffer forks, the bike feels just way more stable than last year's. The front end isn't twitchy, it doesn't want to dive into the stroke of the forks, and it just handles a lot better and inspires a lot more confidence. I even found myself that down some of the faster straightaways here I could really charge hard into the corners, and before I really got into the groove of riding I was actually blowing through corners and overshooting corners. So the changes done to this bike just made the whole entire package just feel way more balanced than last year's machine. With the new suspension changes and better handling, I really feel like the light and nimble feel of this bike can really shine through this year. It just handles so much better than last year, and I know that it sounds like it shouldn't because they're just minor changes, but the minor changes actually made quite a bit of a difference for 2012. One change that I did make to the suspension to help it suit me a little bit better was all I did was just stiffen up the forks 2 clicks and stiffen up the shock 2 clicks. And after I did that, it helped a lot with hard landings off of big jumps like the big one in the back here at Racetown, and if I over jumped anything. So, and it also helped it just stay up in the stroke a little bit better down some of the rougher straightaways here. So there you have it, the 2012 Honda CRF450R. We've got quite a bit more testing to do on it to see how these new suspension changes handle some of the other tracks around here. But check out the next issue of Transworld Motocross for a complete test on it.